Hey everybody, this is Dream, and today we have a 12-game NFL slate for you. This slate is pretty good. We have some good value plays across the board, and we have some good expensive options as well. So we definitely have some good games on this schedule. And we do have some quarterbacks that are going to be interesting today. We'll start with our quarterbacks here, and we're going to look at our top three guys in Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson. Now, none of them really had the best first week, but they all three have really good matchups this week. Mahomes started off pretty rough against Detroit, but he still manages 2 touchdowns and 20 fantasy points, so he does need to score a little bit more than that probably to pay off here. But he is facing Jacksonville, who's pretty tough defensively on the rush, but not so good against the pass. So I do expect him to have a pretty good game here, though he is the most expensive guy. Josh Allen has a nice benefit this week of facing a weaker defense, and it looks like he'll probably have an opportunity for a better game. Hopefully, not have 3 interceptions again. So he definitely is a great option on the slate. He's a little cheaper than Mahomes too, so that gives him some upside. And then Lamar Jackson, I mean, he really had a bad week in his first week against Cincinnati, against the Houston team. But overall, I do think he has some potential to have a big game here. He also has the advantage because he does run, and that gives him some opportunity for touchdowns from that perspective as well, which can boost fantasy points. This hopefully he doesn't fumble the ball away a couple times again and throw an interception or two. But he's capable of a big game here, and even though Cincinnati does tend to be decent against the pass, I think he's going to have opportunity for a good game, and so I do like him here. Some of my more value plays here are Justin Herbert for the Chargers. Now he is facing Tennessee, and I do like his upside here. He's got good yard potential in this one, as Tennessee has in their first game was really bad against the pass. So I look for him to have a big game here and have a lot of opportunity for a great fantasy day. And he's a little bit cheaper, which definitely helps. Trevor Lawrence is kind of a contrarian option today. He's facing the Chiefs, who typically are a tough team to go against, but they didn't do well in their first week against the Lions. So Lawrence has also been really solid in his first game, getting 18 fantasy points, and I did like his upside in that matchup as well. And he's a very good option on this slate, though he's a little bit riskier to this week than he was last week, but he's a viable option at this price, and that gives him a lot of potential. And then Jared Goff, who had a really good first week where he scored 14 fantasy points. He's got a great matchup here against Seattle, who's been really bad against the pass in the first week. So I look for him to have some opportunity here to have another big game and hopefully get more touchdowns this time. But he's capable of a good game here, so somewhere in the 15 to 25 range at this price point is definitely viable here on the slate. Maybe the running backs here. We have several good guys to look at here, but Barkley for the Giants is in a great opportunity here against Arizona. He's got some decent rush potential here. He had a pretty good week he didn't have a very good week of first week against Dallas, but Dallas's defense looked really solid, and the Giants, I mean, with the exception of him, they don't have a whole lot, so they're gonna have to rely on him a lot in this game. But it is an easier matchup here. Bijan Robinson for Atlanta looks like a great option on the slate. The only real risk here is he doesn't get enough uh, rushing attempts, but he is getting passing targets, and so that gives him some upside, and he has some touchdown potential from that perspective as well. Though he's fairly expensive, he's a little bit pricey, but he's got a great matchup here against Green Bay, who's had trouble so far this season. Tony Pollard for Dallas is in a great spot here. He had a pretty good week, one having 70 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's going to be a guy that's going to be interesting to look at in the offense, as he'll also get some passing potential, and he's got a great matchup here against the Jets. Even though the Jets are a decent defense, they're going to struggle to score, and he's going to have a lot of opportunity. And I think Dallas will try to, run the clock a lot. So I look for him to have a pretty solid game. Derrick Henry also in play on this slate for Tennessee. Now his first week was not as good as we'd hoped, but he is capable of a good game, and he does draw good, total yard potential. The Chargers did limit their first week's defense to 70 yards, but I look for him to have a pretty good opportunity as the points total for this game should be pretty high, and so I like his upside here. Um, then we'll get some value options here, and we'll look at Josh Jacobs for Las Vegas. Now he didn't have a very good week in his first week, but he did get a lot of attempts. He didn't score a touchdown, but I look like for Buffalo to give up a lot of yards on the ground, and I think he'll have some opportunity here. This should be a decently high-scoring game, and I like his potential for a good game on the ground here. Another guy I really like is Etney Jr. for Jacksonville. Now, he's got a tougher matchup this week, but last week he managed to score some targets through the air as well, and that really helped boost his fantasy points a little bit. And he did score a touchdown on the rush, which he's very capable of in this matchup, and they have a good situation here. So I do think he's a viable option, though it is a risky play against Kansas City, but I do think he's a viable and a good cheap option as well. Kenneth Walker the third is also in play this week. He only had 12 rushes in his first week, but I look for them to bounce back as they're going to have a little bit easier matchup here against Detroit, and I look for him to have a big game and score over 100 yards, and he has some really nice upside with this price point. And same kind of goes for David Montgomery for Detroit against Seattle. He has some really good potential today or this weekend to get a touchdown and have some nice upside. He's going to get plenty of rushing attempts, and he's definitely got the capacity to get a good scoring day at this particular price point. So moving to our wide receivers, we've got a couple different teams to kind of look at the most. Cincinnati's one, Jacksonville's one, Indiana has a couple guys, Tennessee, and Dallas. But we'll start with Stephon Diggs for Buffalo, who had a good 100-yard game in his first game, and he'll definitely need to score a touchdown to really pay off at this price point. But he's definitely going to have some capability today, and I look for Josh Allen to have a big game in this one, and Diggs will be a huge part of that as he's got plenty of reception opportunities in this one. Jamar Chase also in play. I look for the Bengals to bounce back here against Baltimore. Baltimore's defense can be pretty good, but I do think that Burrow will have a big game here. In his first week, sometimes they have a slow start, and I look for him to have a bounce back game and have a big one. And so I really do like Cincinnati receivers this week, and I think they'll be kind of contrarian as well. CeeDee Lamb for Dallas also in play. He only had 4 receptions last week, but he is going to get a lot of targets probably this week against the Jets defense. So I like his potential here. He has some nice upside and good fantasy point potential, though he is a little bit pricey in this situation. Devontae Adams is probably going to be a guy that's going to have some targets. He did miss a couple of balls last week, though. That is a little bit of a concern, but I do look for this game to be more of a shootout and have some potential for some high-flying action. And he's going to be one of the best receivers on the field for the game outside of Stephon Diggs, so I think he'll have a lot of opportunity. Calvin Ridley for the Jaguars is kind of a sneaky play this week. He's got nice touchdown potential. He was a favorite target for Trevor Lawrence in Week 1, and I look for him to return to that again this week as he gets he's going to have a lot of opportunities for those types of passes in this particular game. So I do think he's a great option here. Then T. Higgins, he's a second wide receiver for the Bengals, and he looks like he's going to have plenty of targets this week. Obviously, last week he didn't get any of them, but he's going to have opportunity to bounce back here and have a good week. And so I look for him to have a solid one in this one. I think the Bengals will be a great team to kind of stack in this particular situation. Michael Pittman is kind of a one-off guy for Indiana, who got targeted a lot last week as a kind of a check down option, and I think it's going to be more of the same this week. And I look for him to have a lot of opportunity, have some good games, good opportunity for a lot of catches rather, and potentially a touchdown. The touchdown could be harder, but even if you get over 100 yards, then that will pay off here at this price. Chris Godwin for Tampa Bay also in play. He's been targeted pretty good in his first game. We do need him to get a little more yards than he did the first week, but he's got a great matchup this time, and I like his potential in this one. Ayuk for San Francisco had a huge monster week in his first game this season as he scored 2 touchdowns and he had over 100 yards. Now I'm not going to say that he's going to repeat that. This is a little bit of a tougher matchup defensively for him, but he is capable of a good game here, and he can probably score a touchdown in this one that will help him pay off at this price. He's still pretty reduced price despite his big game in Week 1. Mike Williams for the Chargers also in play. He's a pretty decent price guy. He didn't do particularly great in his first game, but he's going to have a lot of opportunity in this one to have a big game, and I like his potential here. Then we'll look at Deebo Samuel for San Francisco. He's kind of a contrarian option. I do like San Francisco a little bit this week, but last week Ayuk got most of the catches. He's only a couple $100 cheaper. He's going to have plenty of targets. It's just a matter of pulling him in and getting the situation, but it is a tougher defensive matchup, so San Francisco is kind of a contrarian team to stack this week. Then we'll look at DJ Moore, for the Bears. Now he's got a good price here. He didn't get a lot of targets in Week 1, But he does have some potential for a good game here, and he's got a great matchup here against Tampa Bay. He's not going to stop anybody this week, and so Chicago is definitely going to have some opportunity to have a bounce back game. Zay Flowers for Baltimore is kind of a sneaky play this week. He's going to have plenty of opportunity to get targets. He just needs to get a touchdown to really pay off here, or even 100 yards, which he's definitely capable to do. Lamar Jackson is going to throw his way a lot, and he's going to have some good opportunity for a big game here against Cincinnati. And then Zay Jones, if you want to stack Jacksonville, he's definitely a great way to go about it. He's a good cheap option. He's going to get plenty of targets as well, much similar to Michael Pittman in Indiana, and also even Ridley on his own team. He's going to have some opportunity, have some catches, and if he can get over 50 yards and a touchdown again, then he'll definitely pay off on this particular slate, which I think is very capable on this one. And then finally, we'll look at Treylon Burks for Tennessee. Now he's kind of high risk, high reward as he's pretty inexpensive. But if he can draw a few targets and manage to score a touchdown, he'll have some opportunity here. It looks like he'll have some more opportunity with Hopkins potentially missing or not playing full game. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But he's kind of a contrarian option or a Hail Mary type option on this slate. Moving into our tight ends, we have a few different guys to look at. Obviously, Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews will be in play if they play. They're both questionable, so you have to wait and see on those guys. But if we don't go with those guys, then Darren Waller is going to be an interesting option. Now, he didn't get very many targets in week one. He only had 5, and he only pulled in 3 for 36 yards, which was a disappointment, especially at his price point. But I look for them to bounce back this week against a little bit easier offense than they played the first week, and he'll have some more opportunity here to have a good game. But if you don't like him, then you can go with George Kittle for San Francisco, who should get more opportunities in a tougher matchup here to get some good targets here to be kind of to give them some opportunity to move the ball. He didn't get but 6 targets in week one and only scored 19 yards, but he's capable of a big game occasionally, and so I do like his potential in this one. Then we'll look at Evan Ingram for Jacksonville. I really like Jacksonville wide receivers today, and tight end is a good spot to look at here as well, as they have a tough matchup against Kansas City. But I think Trevor Lawrence will try to go to him a little bit more, and if he can get over 100 yards or at least a touchdown, then he'll definitely pay off here. And then Kyle Pitts for Atlanta is kind of a cheap play, kind of a Hail Mary option at this position. He does have some potential for some targets, especially in this plus matchup. And I look for him to have a sneaky upside game, especially at a dirt cheap price. Moving into our defenses, we have really 4 defenses to choose from that I like a lot this weekend. The 49ers, the Cowboys, the Bills, and the Jets are the top ones. Now, the 49ers do have a good matchup against the Rams, who have been somewhat weak, and they have some interception potential as they had 2 in the first week. The Cowboys obviously had a giant game against the Giants in week 1. I look for them to continue that against the Jets, who are really in dire straits when it comes to quarterbacks right now. And so I do like the potential of the Cowboys to have a huge game here. Then we'll look at the Bills against Vegas. Now, I do like some Vegas plays, but the Bills do have some potential for some sacks and stuff, and I do think they have some viability here, but they are a little bit high risk, high reward. And then the Jets defense is good. They do face a tough matchup here against Dallas. They're a very contrarian option here, kind of Hail Mary-ish, but you could really score a good fantasy point game if they manage to do what they did to Buffalo last week. They're a very good defense, so they're definitely capable. I'm also going to mention that the who was it I was going to look at? Oh, never mind. They were later slate. Sorry about that. Anyway, that's what I have for this slate. So I think they've really solid. You got some really solid options this week. So overall, I think the slate's going to be pretty high scoring and should be a fun slate. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. And have a nice day, guys.